I still remember that morning like it happened yesterday. The boardroom was filled with tension, the kind that hums in the air before something important begins. I had worked for months on that presentation, late nights, countless edits, and endless coffee. It was my moment to finally be recognized, to prove that talent had nothing to do with the color of my skin, but with the effort and vision I brought to the table. I was the only Black woman in that department, and while I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, the subtle looks, the faint smirks, the whispered comments in hallways always reminded me I didn't quite belong, at least not in their eyes. When my turn came, I stood tall, wearing the navy blazer that made me feel both sharp and confident. My slides were perfect, my research bulletproof, and I had rehearsed my pitch until every sentence felt like second nature. I began to speak, watching the board members nod slightly. For a moment, I felt the rush of pride that maybe, just maybe, this was my time. But before I could finish my third slide, the glass doors swung open. In walked Amelia, our CEO's daughter. She was everything the corporate world seemed to adore. Blonde, confident, polished, and utterly sure of her own importance. Everyone's attention shifted immediately. She didn't even look at me as she crossed the room, tossing her designer bag on the table and greeting everyone like she owned the place. Then, with a faintly amused smile, she turned to me and said, "You can stop now. We won't be needing your ideas anymore." The room went silent. My words froze in my throat. I stood there, half turned toward the projector, my hands trembling slightly though I fought to hide it. The CEO cleared his throat awkwardly, trying to maintain composure, but didn't say anything to correct her. That silence, his silence, hurt more than anything. Amelia leaned casually against the table, glancing at my slides. "We've decided to take the campaign in a new direction," she said. "Your ideas don't really fit our brand image." I wanted to ask what that meant, but deep down I already knew. Our brand image. The unspoken message was clear. It wasn't the ideas that didn't fit, it was me. My perspective, my voice, my presence. I sat down quietly as she continued speaking, presenting concepts I had seen before. Simpler, uninspired, but coming from her, they were suddenly fresh and bold. The room erupted in applause when she finished, and I clapped too, though my palms stung from the effort. That night, I went home numb. I sat on my couch, replaying every moment, every smirk, every dismissive glance. I thought of my parents who had sacrificed so much so I could have this career, so I could walk into boardrooms where they never could. And I thought about how easily my voice was erased in a single afternoon, by someone who had done nothing but inherit a last name. I almost quit. For days, I drafted resignation letters I never sent. But anger, quiet, steady, righteous anger, burned stronger than defeat. I realized that if I walked away, they'd win twice. Once by humiliating me, and again by making me disappear. So instead, I started planning. I focused on what I did best: research, insight, and creativity. I began developing my own proposal outside of work hours. A campaign concept that tapped into communities our company had long ignored. I used data, real stories, and cultural insight that spoke to authenticity. I didn't do it for them. I did it for me, for the belief that voices like mine deserved to be heard, even if I had to build my own platform to make it happen. Weeks passed. At the office, Amelia's campaign launched with much fanfare. It was everywhere: billboards, social posts, interviews. But beneath the glossy presentation, it was hollow. The numbers told the truth no PR spin could hide. Engagement plummeted. Consumers called it tone-deaf, out of touch, even offensive. The same voices that had cheered her on were now scrambling to explain the failure. One afternoon, I got an email from an old colleague who had left the company. She told me about an upcoming industry innovation contest. Open submissions for marketing campaigns tackling diversity and authenticity in branding. Without overthinking it, I submitted my project. I used my research, my story, my voice. And then I forgot about it. A month later, I got the call. I had been shortlisted. Then came the invitation to present before a panel of executives from some of the top firms in the country. I wore that same navy blazer, but this time, I walked in with my head high and my confidence unshaken. My presentation flowed effortlessly, rooted not in trying to prove my worth, but in knowing it. 2 weeks later, the results were announced. I won, first place, out of hundreds of submissions. My campaign concept was picked up by a major competitor of my former company, and within months, it became a national success story. Then came the twist. The CEO from my old firm reached out. Their campaign had failed so spectacularly that they were desperate for a new direction. They had seen my success, my concept, my results, and they wanted to partner. I agreed to meet, purely out of curiosity. When I walked into that same boardroom, the memories hit like waves. The faces were the same, except this time, they looked at me differently, hesitant, even respectful. Amelia was there too, sitting quietly beside her father, her confidence visibly shaken. The CEO cleared his throat, trying to sound composed. "We were very impressed by your recent campaign," he said. "We'd like to discuss a possible collaboration. We believe your insight could really help us reconnect with the audience." I smiled politely. "Interesting," I said. "Because last time I tried to share my ideas here, I was told you didn't need them anymore." The CEO shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his daughter. Amelia looked down, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "That was a misunderstanding," he stammered. "We value your perspective now." I paused, letting the silence stretch just long enough to feel the weight of irony settle in the room. "I appreciate the offer," I said finally. "But I'm already leading a campaign with your biggest competitor, and they actually listened." The look on their faces was priceless. I stood up, thanked them for their time, and walked out of that glass building for the last time. Not as the humiliated employee they once dismissed, but as the woman who had proven them wrong in every possible way. In the months that followed, my campaign won awards and opened doors I had only dreamed of before. I was invited to speak at conferences, mentor young creatives of color, and build a team that reflected the diversity I once had to fight to represent. And sometimes, when I passed by one of those billboards with my slogan on it, the same one they said didn't fit our brand image, I can't help but smile. Because karma didn't just work fast, it worked perfectly. It's strange how people who dismiss you for who you are often end up needing the very thing they tried to silence. But the truth is, revenge isn't always loud or cruel. Sometimes it's just success speaking in your place. And in that quiet, confident victory, you find peace. Not because they finally see your worth, but because you no longer need their approval to validate it.